Hi there guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma. For those of you that don't know me, it is really lovely to see you here. A little bit of a change of background today. I'm normally in my bedroom doing try-ons. I'm not. I'm sitting at my table in the kitchen because this is going to be more of a chatty video. For those of you that have been watching my videos for quite a while, or for anybody who follows me over on Instagram, you will know that YouTube is not my job and that I am actually a midwife. And Saturday signified, or Friday signified 12 years of me being a qualified midwife. And I posted about that on Instagram and it got a massive response for me. Not massive like compared to what some photos of some people get, but for me it was massive. And I've also received over the last few weeks and months quite a lot of direct messages about my job and people asking me for advice and things, and you know, how easy was it to get into and my story, and I just thought that seeing as it was 12 years since I qualified, that now would be as good a time as any to kind of do a bit more of a sit down and a chat to you about how I became a midwife. If this is not anything that you're interested in and you're interested in seeing me flirting myself around my bedroom, trying on clothes, then normal service will be resumed. And I can only apologise that I have not uploaded a video. I think this is about 3 weeks since I've uploaded a video. Things here have been mental. It's been my daughter's birthday. I've been working loads. So I just really haven't had time to A, go shopping to get anything from charity shops, and B, to try them on and film it. So, and then I thought that this was probably more of a poignant video to film at this moment in time. So, and I had half an hour before the school pickup and I just thought I would just sit and do it. And the dresser was relatively tidy, so I thought that's my backdrop, because normally it's covered in shite, which is, it's been pushed that way. If I was to turn the camera around you would see it. So yeah, so how I became a midwife. So it's not sort of a traditional story. I left school when I was 16, had no idea that this is where I would end up. When I left school, all I wanted to do was be a hairdresser. I got enough GCSEs to get to hairdressing college. I went and did my, what was then a YTS. For those of you that are as old as me, you will remember that. So I did my YTS in hairdressing. And I then moved to Chester when I was I was brought up in Stoke. I moved to Chester when I was about 19 because my best friend was living in Chester. She'd come to Chester University, came over and visited her, absolutely loved Chester, ended up moving over here, getting a job in a hairdresser's in Chester, and then that's where I met my husband. We then had, well, how old was I then? I was about 20. We got married when I was about 24, I think, and I had our son when I was maybe 25, 26. And in all the time since moving to Chester, I hairdressed for about 18 months, 2 years, I think, maybe, in a salon. And then I went freelance and I was mobile hairdressing. And I did that and still do a little bit of that, even to this day. So that was my job. And then when I had our son, it became very difficult to take him to a lot of my jobs with me because I was breastfeeding him and he was a bit of a pain, to be honest, and wanted a lot of attention, which is fine. He's a baby and that's to be expected. But when you're trying to do somebody's highlights and he's screaming his head off, it became quite a problem. And because I was self-employed, I got no money for being off sick, no money for taking time off, so I worked and I worked and I worked. And to the point where I was almost burning myself out, and also feeling a little bit like, because he was with me constantly, I just wanted a little bit of a break from him. So we tried putting him in nursery. That failed drastically. He absolutely hated it. It made me an absolute mess. So we abandoned that idea. So again, it was him coming with me. So, and then when he got to about the age of 18 months, I remember sort of sitting, and financially we were in a very good place, and the money that we were earning, we were literally making ends meet. And by that I mean literally. And I would have hairdressing jobs in, and I would have them earmarked, because the majority of people used to pay me in cash. So I'd be like, oh well, when I do her hair on Saturday, then that'll be the food shopping for Monday, and when they pay me for that, then we'll be able to pay the gas bill. And that was very much how we worked. And it got to the point where that job on Saturday would then cancel and we wouldn't be able to afford food, and that was literally where we were at. And so it became very apparent that I needed to earn more money. And I think the problem I had was I had basically cut off my nose to spite my face when he was a baby, and I didn't want to take him with me to jobs. Those clients then find other hairdressers, and that's absolutely fine. But then when he was 18 months and he could be sort of left a little bit more and didn't need me so much and could be left with daddy and things, those clients had gone elsewhere. So, and I didn't want to advertise because I didn't want to go to people I didn't know, and because I'd run my entire business on word of mouth. So it was a bit of a torrid time, really, financially. So I remember getting to about the age of about 27 maybe. Our son was 18 months old, I know that, and we basically had to sit down, and me and my husband, and have a chat about what we're going to do. And I said that I would get a job. And I said, but there's only two things I've ever really thought about doing other than hairdressing, and that is midwifery or an estate agent. And yeah, and I remember kind of thinking, but I don't want to be a midwife because I have to work Christmas Day. And Phil, my husband, was like, and that's your sole reason for not doing it. I was like, well, yeah, apart from the fact that I don't think I'm qualified enough. So I ended up ringing the university and asking, this was in the July, I rang the university and asked what A-levels I needed to be, or what qualifications I needed to enrol on the course. And I could kind of hear them laughing at the end of the phone and going, well, actually you need A-levels, and you know, your 4 GCSEs in art and DT, are not going to cut it. And I was like, oh God, well, what can I do then? And I remember my brother went into nursing later in life at sort of my age as I was then, and he'd gone to night school and done his A-levels, and I was like, well, maybe I'm going to have to go to night school then. And then they offered me, they said, well, you can go and do an access course. And it was at our local college, and it was an access to higher education, but it was like a health, quite orientated course. So it covered sociology, psychology, human biology. I had to resit my maths GCSE because I hadn't got that. And I basically came out of it with the equivalent of 2 A-levels at the end of this 12 months. But in amongst this course, so I started that when Isaac was 18 months old, and in amongst this course, they kind of get you prepared for midwifery interviews, because everybody on that course wants to go on to be either a nurse or a midwife. And I found the course extremely hard, you know, going back to college when I was what I considered to be not an academic at all. I found it really difficult. We didn't have internet access at home. I didn't have a printer. I was handwriting all my essays. I was physically word counting all my essays. It was really, really difficult. I was juggling childcare. I was still hairdressing. I was still trying to be all things to all people and do this course as well. So I got to the end of the course. It was extremely hard for me. I think I scraped it probably by the skin of my teeth on most of my assignments that I handed in, but I did it. Everybody on that course was guaranteed an interview at their local university. So we were a feeder college for Chester University, and which was amazing. So I was actually, we were almost guaranteed, if you got a decent personal statement out, we were guaranteed to be able to have an interview at Chester, which was amazing. And I remember sitting and having mock interviews, and I think anybody that is potentially thinking about going into midwifery, or any course really, if you are offered a mock interview, do it. And they're really harsh feedback, and they said to me that I talk with my hands. Is it gesticulate? I gesticulate very much. And one of them said you might want to sit on your hands during your interview, and I was like, oh my God. But that's it, you know, that's just me. And I thought, well, if I go in there and I'm so conscious, I'm just going to babble all over the place. But they were really worthwhile doing, and it meant that they sort of threw questions up that I wouldn't really have thought of, because you can't walk into a midwifery interview and say, well, I want to do it because I love babies. You know, that isn't going to cut the mustard, unfortunately. And to be fair, I don't actually know why I thought I wanted to be a midwife. I think I'd had a lovely relationship with my community midwife, Helen, when I delivered our son. I don't know if I met her antenatally actually, but I must have done, but I met her postnatally at home, and I remember it and kind of seeing her and thinking, oh God, that again, it just must be a lovely job. This just must be such a lovely job. And it must have stuck with me, obviously. But it wasn't because I'd had any sort of burning desire from being 3 years old to be a midwife, because it never ever entered my head until I had my own son, and then it just kind of niggled away at me. But I always put it to the back of my mind because I thought, I'm thick and I'm stupid and I don't want to have to work Christmas Day. So they were my reasons. But then I ended up getting an interview at Chester. But my personal statement must have been pretty good, because I also got an interview at Liverpool John Moores, and I also got an interview at Preston to do the degrees in midwifery, and I went for all 3 interviews, even though really I had no intention of going to Preston. But my husband at the time worked that way, and we thought, well, maybe, because Isaac wasn't at school or anything, we could have moved. Had that have been the only choice we had, we would have done it. And anyway, as fate would have it, I got offered a place at Chester University. I think the year that I applied, which was 2004, the government had a big drive to get new midwives in, you know, to train new midwives. So rather than kind of taking on sort of 25, 28 midwives, which had been the norm at Chester, they took on 40. So I was exceptionally lucky to get in when I did that year, and there were a few girls on our access course who didn't get in, who tried, and eventually sort of 3 or 4 tries they got in. I mean, hats off to them, because if that had been me, I'd have just given up, but they didn't, and bless them, you know. And I'm working with a couple of them now that did that, and I just think it's amazing that they kept trying, because they wanted to do it so badly. So I ended up getting offered all 3 places. Preston and Liverpool were offering a degree, which meant that I would have had to have obviously paid for it, whereas Chester were offering a diploma, which they don't do anymore. It's all degree now. And the diploma meant that I would get an NHS bursary. So as a married woman over the age of 25, I was entitled to about £500 a month, which is a pittance, but I didn't have to pay for my course. I didn't have to pay my fees for I've ended up with a diploma. I haven't got a degree. But yeah, so I was absolutely thrilled. So I started on September the 27th, 2004, and I remember I'd gone to lots of open days and things, and I remember meeting the tutors, and I remember one of the tutors on our first day, she said to us something like along the lines of, so how many of you here enjoy having sex? And we were all like, oh my God. And she said, because you're not going to get any for the next 3 years. And we were all like, oh my God. And she said, because this course is totally full on, and that's just the way it is. And your life, your sex life, your life has basically got to be put on hold for 3 years. And I think it was at that moment that I thought, shit, this has just got real. You know, this is it. And it was, oh, sorry, there's somebody at my door, bear with. Bloody son's ASOS order. You know, this lovely son I keep talking about, who's only 18 months old, and now he's fully grown and ordering from ASOS. So I remember kind of thinking, God, this is going to be so full on. And then I was quite surprised that in the first few kind of weeks it wasn't, and I was like, she's talking shit, you know, it's not that bad at all. And then it got really bad. And I think I thrive on leaving everything to the last minute, and I am not a person who will plan an essay and then go and get all the books and then write down all my references and then sort it all out and just be dead organised with it all. I get the essay title and then I'll clean my oven and then I'll sort the fridge out and then I'll tidy all my books up and then I'll put nice little post-it notes in everything and then I'll shove them to one side and then I'll move them over there. And then the books will expire from the library and I'll have to renew them, and then I realise I've got 4 days left to do it, and I spend 4 days cramming and I do it and I pass it, and that is how I've always been, and that is how I will always be. Because I have since gone on and done my mentorship module, which is a degree module, and I was exactly the same. I went and took about 19 books out of the library on my first day and then ended up with a £50 fine because they were all completely overdue by the time that I'd bloody finished the course, and it was what a nightmare. So the first few weeks, the way that our course ran was we would have blocks of, oh no we didn't, what a load of bollocks I'm talking. That's how they do it now. Our course ran sort of as a 39-hour week, and within that week we would do a couple of days in college and a couple of shifts at the hospital, and I was at Warrington Hospital was my placement. And I went out on community first and then I was on labour ward. So by the time I got to labour ward, I'd probably been on my course for about 3 months, I would say. It was probably nearing Christmas by the time I hit labour ward, or was it even after Christmas, can't remember. And I was put with a mentor called Sheila, I think. And she, the first day, basically got like, this is your student Emma, and I just remember sort of looking me up and down, and I thought, oh right, okay, that's how it's going to be, is it? And she's somebody who was handing her over said, like, the woman in room 3 is just about to deliver. Take Emma with you. You know, it'd be interesting for us to see. So this is me, wet behind the ears, never seen a delivery in my life, never really been in a hospital, never hit a labour ward before. Don't know my mentor, don't know my way round, and here I am about to go in to this room at 7:30 in the morning, and this woman's about to give birth. And it was like a scene from The Exorcist. I swear to God, she was, if her head had spun round, I wouldn't have been a bit surprised. It was horrific. That's how it is in my head anyway. Oh my God, we walked in, and I remember Sheila sort of taking over from the midwife that was about to deliver her, because this woman was literally about to deliver, and no midwife, no matter how much she likes her patient, wants to stay and deliver that baby at handover. She wants somebody else to take over so she can run. Because if you deliver it, you have to document it, and it's a nightmare. So I remember handing over to Sheila, and this woman was literally screaming, and I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself, I didn't know where to stand, and Sheila didn't give me any indication as to what I was supposed to do with myself, and I just remember sort of pinning myself against the back wall, and this child exploded out of this woman's fandango, and I slid down the wall and had to sit down and just thought, I'm going to vomit or I'm going to pass out, one or the other. And I sort of gave myself, I remember Sheila looking over and going, "Are you all right?" And I was like, And I got up and I went into the toilets and I sat with my head between my legs, and I texted my mum and just said, I don't know what I'm doing, I hate it. And then the next delivery I saw was a woman who had the most massive hemorrhage of all hemorrhages I've ever been part of since, in 15 years. And I was in there for that, so that was horrific. And again, I had to put my head between my legs at that point. And I remember kind of becoming a bit of a joke amongst the mentors. It was, well, you don't want Emma in with you because she's cursed, basically, and your delivery will go tits up and everything will go wrong. And I kind of got that vibe and nobody really wanted me. So I remember sort of thinking, oh my God, I don't know if this is for me. I really don't know if this is for me. And then eventually you witness a nice delivery. When I trained, you had to witness 10 deliveries before you could get what we call hands-on, which is basically your hands either over the top of the midwives or underneath the midwives guiding the delivery. And so I witnessed my 10 deliveries, all very different, all horrific in their own way. But then eventually you see one that kind of restores your faith in nature and women and everything. And I was like, oh wow, is that how it should be then? Right, okay. And then the more I was dealing with situations like that, the easier it became, and I didn't have to put my head between my legs and hyperventilate. I found the academic side of university extremely hard. I live still about 12 miles away from Chester University. We didn't have internet access at home. We didn't have a home computer. So I could only access the internet via my husband's laptop of an evening, and he had to dial up through his work. It was very, very strange. So he would get home from work, basically hand me his laptop, I'd hand him the child, and I'd go off and do my assignments, or I would have to do them at the weekends. So it was really, really, really difficult. And I found the whole thing, the whole biology aspect of it, I'm still very confused by. I do sometimes wonder if they put my name on that certificate by mistake. And I shouldn't really be there. But I do almost feel like it was this most life-changing, emotional 3 years. It was so hard. You cannot enter into this lightly, you know. I cannot stress enough the stress it will put on your finances, the stress it will put on your relationships, with your husband, with your wife, with your children, with your parents. It was hard. It was hard going. It was non-stop. I didn't get holidays like universities do. I got 2 weeks at Christmas, 2 weeks at Easter, and 2 weeks in the summer, and that was it. You got the odd reading week, but they were immediately, you immediately went back to exams. I remember going into my finals, and our head of school, Andrea, was there when we were about to sit our finals, and one of the lecturers said to her, Andrea, have you got any words of advice for these girls? You know, this was, it all came down to this. And she said, yeah, just don't write shit. And I was like, oh, cheers, Andrea, that's great, thanks for that. Yeah, and then and one thing that did break my heart was when I was 2 years in. The second year is a killer, because you're betwixt and between. You don't really know that much, but you know a lot, but you've still got a hell of a mountain to climb to qualifying. And second year just feels like you're drowning. I failed an assignment in my second year. I was still hairdressing a lot because I needed to make money. So I had a bit of a sit on the stairs in uni with one of my friends, Sally, and a bit of a meltdown, and we kind of were like, what can I do about this? And she said, you know, you've got to stop hairdressing a little bit, you've got to rein it in a bit, you know, you've got to decide what's important. And it's been really, really difficult. But I remember sitting, Isaac was in the bath, I was in my second year, he was in the bath, husband was kneeling in the bath. Kneeling in the bath, he wasn't, that's weird. Kneeling by the bath, and I was sitting on the toilet because that's normal. And we were playing Guess the Person, and we would describe somebody to him, and he would say who it was. So if we said she's got white hair and a pointy nose, he'd know we were talking about Nana. Sorry, Mum. And he said, my go. And he said, she's got yellow hair and she never plays with me. And that was me. And that's what he said, and it still affects me now. It was really, really hard. And at that point, I don't know what, I was hurt more by the yellow hair comment, I think. But it was really hard to hear your child say they never play with me. And for a long, long time, you know, he called me Minna when he was just talking. So he was maybe 2 and 3, maybe older, and he would call me Minna. And I always used to wonder, why does he call me Minna? Why does he call me Minna? And then I've thought about it, and I think it's because every time he wanted me, I'd say, in a min, in a min, in a min. Because I was always busy. I was always trying to do an assignment, to write down a reference, to look on the computer for something, to finish an essay, to do a word count by hand, you know, in a min. And that is one memory of doing this midwifery course, which will stay with me till I think the day I die, and will probably always affect me like that. And if ever I'm in a movie and I have to cry on demand, and then I'll just think of that and it will happen. So yeah, and then when we came to qualifying, the hospital that I was working at, well, the hospital that I trained at, decided that they didn't want to take any of their students on that year because they had no jobs. So one of the girls there was only about 3 of us that qualified. Lots and lots of people drop out on the course, so we started off with 40, and I reckon we probably only finished with about 25, something like that. I'd be interested to know. But it was a massive amount that left the course, decided it wasn't for them. Husbands got new jobs and they moved away. People deferred until the next year. Personal problems. So there were lots and lots of reasons why people dropped out of the course. And a lot of three of the girls that dropped out of the course were from our placement over in Warrington. So there was, I think, 3 of us that actually qualified. And I think 2 of the girls now are actually abroad. They qualified and went abroad because they couldn't get jobs. And I remember on my graduation day, which was in the November after we qualified in the September, I was the only person at my graduation that didn't have a job. Every other girl there had a job. And again, that is completely soul destroying. And you just kind of think, well, it's just all been a waste of time. It's just been a complete and utter waste of time. And I remember the night before saying to my husband, I'm not going to my graduation, it's ridiculous. I'm paying however much for my cap and gown and it's just ridiculous. And he said, listen, you're not going to celebrate the fact that you've got a job, you're going to celebrate the fact that you've achieved this wonderful thing. And I was like, yeah, you're right, okay. And I am immensely proud. Looking back on the photos, I had completely the wrong suit on and my hair looked like Pippi Longstocking, but you know, we live and we learn. But yeah, so it wasn't an easy road. I got a job down at a hospital in the January. So I was maybe nearly 6 months out of work. So I was hairdressing again, applying for jobs all the time, applying for bank, applying for anything I could, everywhere I could. We was considering moving down to Cornwall, because jobs were coming up down there, but it was just, by which point my son was now in school, and it was all just becoming a bit more difficult. And then I eventually got a job, a full-time job as a midwife in a hospital just south of Stoke-on-Trent, back where I was from. And I just loved it. And I was there for 6 years, I think. And then an opportunity came for me to move to a more local hospital, which was always the plan. But then I loved where I was so much that the journey didn't bother me. I was working. It's about a 64-mile one-way trip all down the M6. It was a killer after a night shift. It used to take me an hour and 25 minutes to get to work. It was a nightmare, but I did it. I did it for 6 years. And then 5 years ago, I got a job where I am now, which is 10 miles away from home, which just seems like I'm hopping next door. It's amazing. So I think basically what I want to say is that, you know, don't give up. Not just about midwifery, but about anything. If there is something that you really, really want and you really know in your heart that this is what you want to do, then just go for it, because it must be horrible to get to the end of, you know, to get to an age where you are too old to do the things that you've always wanted to do. And I don't ever want to regret not doing anything. That's why I started this channel, because I talked about it for so long. And I thought, I don't want to get to the age of 70 and say, oh, I wish I'd done that YouTube thing. Oh, I wish I'd done my midwifery training when I was younger. I know I always said I would and I didn't. And I know it's easy to say that. And people aren't always financially in a position where they're able to just do that. And I get that. But I think you need to dip your toes, and you need to, if this is an itch that can't be scratched and you think, I need to do this, then absolutely you find a way to do it. And there is no right time financially. I remember my husband saying to me when we were about 18 months in, oh my God, I thought you were doing this so that we would be better off. We ended up putting £25,000 on credit cards while I was doing my training, because fair enough, you don't pay your fees, but you've still got to live and you've basically got no income. And his wages were paying the bills, and I, you know, it was so hard. So as soon as I qualified, we got a loan out, and my wages were basically paying that off. So it hasn't been easy. Would I do it again? What a difficult question. I'm extremely proud to call myself a midwife, and I have had the honour, and it is an honour. Oh my God. Oh, to be there at the most amazing times in people's lives. And I've also had the honour of being there at the saddest times of people's lives as well. And it is not just about delivering babies. You are that woman's voice, you are her advocate, you are her everything. And I love that. It's very difficult sometimes to do the job we want to do because of red tape and because of litigation and because of, you know, the hoops that we have to jump through in the NHS, not just in midwifery, but in the NHS. We rarely get praised, we always get bollocked. But it's, yes, I would do it again, I think. I would. I don't think I'd change it. And I know I sometimes have to stop myself, because when people say that they want to be a midwife, I almost feel I want to say, why? Because you will never get Christmas off again. You will never get to see your daughter's school play. You will never be there to pick up from school. You will be constantly on nights, and nights shorten your life expectancy by 10 years, and you will always look like Hagrid from Harry Potter. You will constantly be grumpy, you will constantly have water retention, you will never be able to lose weight because you will constantly be eating spaghetti bolognese at 3 a.m. You know, it is a job that is all encompassing. It isn't a job that you can come home from and switch off from, because you are constantly thinking, I wonder what happened to that patient, I wonder how that baby was, I wonder what happened to her, I wonder how my colleague is after that happened. You know, you never ever switch off from it. I have an amazing support network of colleagues, and also I have an amazing support from my family, and I think you need that, because there are days when I come home and my husband has no clue what I'm talking about because I'm using medical terminology, but I've just got to vent, I've got to get it out, my frustration or my how upset I am, or you know, and he just kind of, as long as he can be there with a cup of tea and a hug, I don't really care. But you need somebody in your life like that, but you also need somebody probably who has no idea what you're talking about, because they can be your voice of reason. When you talk to things with your colleagues, they're invested like you are, so they kind of I don't know how to explain it, but you understand what I mean. They sort of empathise with you because they may have been through something like that before, or, you know, and you can talk things over and they totally understand. But sometimes you just need your husband to say, but you're fine, you didn't do anything wrong, or something like that, you know, and I don't see what the big deal is here, you know. And I think I need him as my wingman, and he's been amazing. And I know I wouldn't have been able to do my training or been the sane, well-rounded individual that I am now without him. But yeah, you definitely need a normal person next to you, because we're not normal. I don't think you can be normal to be a midwife. And also as well, don't worry about like being squeamish, because if anybody cuts their finger, I run a mile. I am in no way equipped to deal with blood or gore. And when I took my mum to have her plaster off her ankle before I started my midwifery training, I passed out. And she was the one holding me up. And then when I remember telling her I was going to be a midwife, and she laughed her head off. And I get it, because I'd be like the last person you would expect to have said it, because I am the most squeamish person. And in amongst your midwifery training, you have to do a short amount of time in A&E. And I remember they'd be like, Emma, there's a road traffic accident coming in. Do you want to start hyperventilating in a brown paper bag now or later? Honestly, I was a nightmare. They gave me more attention and care than the people coming into A&E. It was terrible. But with midwifery, it's different. I can handle whatever it throws at me, gore-wise. But I still can't watch Casualty or Holby. So anyway, that is me. So that was my little tale of how I got where I am today. So I'm 12 years a midwife. 12 years a slave, isn't that a film? 12 years a midwife, as my mug suggests. Marvellous midwife. I hope I am. It's not an easy job, but I hope I bring a little bit of joy to the patients that I have looked after in the past and in the future. And just to say, like I've said before, if you are struggling with anything, just if you want to ask me anything, just drop me a comment or send me a direct message. I really don't mind. I'm here to help. That's why I've done this video, because of the amount of messages that I've had. And I thought, it's probably just easier for me to come on and do a video. So this is me. So if you have enjoyed this video, if it has been of any use to you whatsoever, then please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I will be back, I promise, very soon with a charity shop haul. And I'm not even going to say when, and I'm not even going to say what I'm going to be trying on, because I have no clue and I don't want to make promises to you. But yeah, I will catch up with you all really soon. So thank you so much for watching, and take lots of care. See you soon. Lots of love. Bye.